deep witnessing, shared transformation, and the kind of healing that happens when stories are heard. Welcome to Rabbit Hole Reflections, the podcast where raw stories meet real empowerment. This is a sacred space where guests shared their lived, unfiltered journeys through the rabbit hole, the descent, the truth, and the rise that follows. Every episode holds space for the moments we usually hide and explores the unraveling, the reckoning, and the becoming that reshaped them along the way. Healing doesn't always look good, but it will always change you. I'm Lisa Van Slyke, and you're listening to Rabbit Hole Reflections.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us here at Rabbit Hole Reflections. I am your host, Lisa. Today, we are joined by Dani Murrell. She is the author of Truth Bunny, a guide to loving yourself one honest conversation at a time. After years of teaching, mothering, and masking her own shame, Dani discovered that softness, not self-punishment, is what breaks the cycle. Today we'll be talking radical truth-telling, the emotional labor of motherhood, and why her daughter's offhand nickname Truth Bunny sparked a movement. We will be touching on shame, identity loss, and family patterns, so please take care of yourself as you listen. Dani, thank you so much for joining us here today at Rabbit Hole Reflections.
Thank you so much for having me.
So this is the part of the show where I usually ask guests, go ahead and take us down the rabbit hole journey that you went through.
So over the last 10 years, I was first stripped down to nothing and exposed, and all of the things that I had wrapped myself around at 32 years of age, kind of all had to be shed. And I knew I needed it, but I was so scared of it because it meant telling the truth. It meant admitting what I really wanted and needed. And then over the last 10 years, I think I've really tried to figure out why I did certain things or felt like I needed to hide. And, raising my kids who are now young adults, I feel like I grew up, I healed, I learned from them, and I, really followed their lead as far as what their needs were, but really being conscious of taking care of myself. And that was new. So I'm here now, 10 years later, sorry. And I feel like I'm at another point where I am being forced to shed identities, kill some ego, and I am ready to grow into a new chapter a little bit outside of motherhood, but still taking all the lessons from the last 10 years and turning it into this philosophy, this Truth Bunny philosophy that I'm trying to, make a tool to help other people grow through softness, because I realized I needed softness, not judgment, not shame, not blame, not guilt. And that's what I thought I had to carry with me on my journey. And over the last 10 years, I realized I don't need that. And I've been lugging that along for the last 10 years. Totally unnecessary. So I'm at the messy middle where I don't have something to tell you I'm a life coach and I figured it out and I'm here to tell you you can do it. I'm at the point where I'm I don't know what I'm doing. I've learned a ton and I'm trying to figure out how to make that into the life that I want and spread healing and spread goodness and spread softness to people that need it, to people that have been through shame in a way that it consumes them. Because I feel like that's where I was, where everything that I did, it was rooted in you are inherently not a good person. You are inherently evil. I mean, almost you have sinister intention. I would think there's somewhere secret in me that's doing this for sinister reasons, selfish reasons. And then once I got into therapy and really started to make progress, I realized, oh, I'm actually a good person. I've been programmed to believe a lot of things about myself that weren't true. I'm trying to share Truth Bunny because I feel like it helped me heal. I feel like it helped raise my kids in a way that they're also emotionally intelligent and know how to identify their feelings and regulate their emotions, because I think I met them with softness and acceptance and a willingness to go down the rabbit hole. It's so funny because it's called truth. My daughter coined it truth bunny. And, I always say, like, well, let's go down the rabbit hole to my kids. Like, let's go down that rabbit hole and figure out where your truth is, because that's where the light comes in to see the path. In my opinion, that's what I had to do. I had to whittle it down to my bare truth and figure out what I wanted. Like, even if that was paradoxical, I want to be fully transparent with my children and show them my flaws, but I also want to be able to show them my flaws and be okay with them and at peace with them. So I'll start from the beginning. Around 10 years ago, approximately, it's kind of a little bit of a blur, I got a divorce. I had met this man in college. I did a wild thing and went to art school in Savannah, Georgia from Texas. Didn't see the school, just felt called to go. I just showed up on the first day, and I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why my parents encouraged it either, but I felt called to do it. And I realized that's a pattern. Once I get a calling, I kind of can't be stopped. Anyways, met this guy in college. We were really good friends, and then we got pregnant. I mean, we were dating, but it felt for me like kind of an experiment that turned into something really serious. And it was good. He was a good guy, but I knew deep down somewhere, like, I don't think he is fully aligned with me, but I have a baby and I'm 20, and we're doing pretty good. Like, we get along. I grew up with a very tumultuous divorce in my family. My parents got divorced, and it was just trauma. It was trauma before and it was trauma after. I don't know which was worse, after they divorced and the fighting that ensued, and the pulling and pushing and the manipulating of us children, and the total disregard for our emotional well-being. It blows my mind. So I was really terrified of divorce. I was told from a young age, leaving marriage is wrong. I grew up in Catholic school, and I'm not trying to dog on Catholics. It's part of the programming.
It is.
And it's part of the shame of saying, like, I simply don't want to be in this marriage because it's not aligned.
Right.
It does not make sense to a lot of people, and it didn't make sense to me. So I ran from it. I ran from that truth for a long time, and I buried it. And, when you bury truths, they turn poisonous. And that's the hill I die on, because it's so true. And it started to poison me, and I started to make decisions that I wouldn't. Now I think back, oh my God, I can't believe I did those things. I mean, betrayed people, lied. And then I was exposed. It all came out, as all lies do. And I had to make a choice to either live in shame and act like I'm so sorry and just be consumed by guilt and try to make a marriage that I wasn't happy in work because my family was saying that was the right thing to do. And I was the one who was the bad guy. It was very black and white. And just to be clear, I have no problem. I cheated on my husband. I'm not trying to, like, filter that or water that down. And it was a hard thing, and people are like, don't tell people that. And I'm like, first of all, when I tell people that, I would say 99% of the time, people say, I did it too. And it was horrible. And for some people, they just act like it's not a big deal. But for me, this was earth shattering, because I had built my identity around being this wholesome mom. I was like the budding matriarch of my family, like, she is the role model. She did it at 20 and she's a great mom and got a good marriage. And then I exploded my life because I had no idea how else to get this truth out. So I blew it up. And then I was left with myself and my kids because I wasn't going to give them up. Like, that was non-negotiable. I felt like I was walking around without my skin. But I also felt free. I felt like finally, I at least get to have this. This feels real. Me. At least it's out and I just have to walk through the fire of it. And I was okay with it. Even though it was awful. I mean, I was so isolated by family, but I just kind of kept my head down and kept trucking with my kids. And I saw some women go through this and it felt like their kids were just an afterthought. Like, I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure me out, you know? But that was just a non-negotiable for me, I had to figure out how to heal and figure my shit out and make sure my kids were 1,000% heard and 1,000% protected and not manipulated, not used. And then I was there, I was consistent. So I've been through it. I have a great relationship with my kids now. But the moment of that reckoning was when my daughter, we had got divorced. Things were, we found a schedule that was kind of working. Things were new, but it was like, it's working kind of like we're getting used to it. And then my daughter left a written note for me that was left quietly on our TV when she left to go to her dad's. And the note was angry, and she was 9, I think, at the time. Angry, but not spiteful. It was very truthful and just I'm hurting. I'm scared. I don't trust you anymore. And I'm angry. And it felt like I was at this 2 doors, and I could do what my parents had done and just be like, she's a child. What does she think leaving this note? I'm doing better, and just assume, well, I'm doing better. She'll figure it out. Like she'll get on board. That was a huge one in my childhood. Get on board. And kids are resilient, kids are resilient. And one thing I realized from my childhood was that I was never taught how to be resilient. I was never modeled it. And so children are resilient, but if they're not taught how to do it in a healthy way, they're going to figure it out in a lot of, there could be a lot of ways that they find resilience, coping. So I decided to sit with this letter and read it and let it like flow through me, because if I didn't face it, like I felt like the universe was telling me, like, this is your chance. You can have everything you want and be connected with them, but you need to change and not just run from your truth anymore. So that means being truthful with your children. And so I thought about it and I sat down with both of them. And, people can say like, well, they were kind of young. And I didn't give them any gory details of like the whys and my trauma, but I just said, I messed up. And I am going to, from this second forward, work on building my trust back with y'all. And I'm going to show you that I'm still the same mom. I still love you. I'm still going to be here. That changed something in me, embracing like being this like epic mom that I wanted to be, but also being epically flawed. And realizing, like, waiting for them to go like, you asshole, you're the things that I heard in my childhood, like, you're selfish, you don't care, you're not a good mom, you don't care about your family, things like that. Like when divorce was the subject, like that, those are the things I heard about divorce. So I thought that's what's going to happen if the last people on this planet that I feel like connected to at this time in my life, they're going to turn on me too, but they didn't, they were like, oh, I'm so glad we had this conversation, Mom. And it was like, from that moment on, it took the consistency after, like, I couldn't just say it and then be, I don't know, not fully there for them. And that consistency was hard because every day it was like, I'm healing. My heart is like bleeding out and I'm totally exposed and I'm still having to be like 1,000% there for y'all. It wasn't easy, but it was just that moment where I realized it was like the first reprogram of my brain where I realized that truth is powerful and it doesn't have to be scary. It can be soft and it can be vulnerable, but it doesn't have to be violent or aggressive. And then fast forward, my daughter was in college and she's doubting everything. And, we had been, always had very meaningful, connected conversations. But this one time she was just like, I don't know if this is right. I miss home so much. I don't know why I have to go far away. She went to Austin. We're in Dallas. It's not that far away, but it was far enough away that she missed family and she missed home.
I'm in Dallas. Austin can be a full day journey just to get there.
Okay. I did not know you were in Dallas. That's awesome. Very cool. But yeah, so she was questioning things that, she's got a big dream of being a filmmaker one day, and she's going to UT in Austin for that. I just think she was at the start of it and just really doubting, like, is this like a crazy thing for me to be like investing my energy into? Like, is this unrealistic? I asked her, like, well, if you were sitting on my couch and not in school and not, getting jobs in the film industry, that everything you can find in networking, I would probably say, well, yeah, Lil, that's kind of a unrealistic goal if you're not doing anything towards it, but you're doing stuff towards it. And, just because you feel bad or sad or doubtful doesn't encompass your whole journey. And she goes, that's a truth, bunny. Like, that's a hard truth to hear. Like, you got to keep going. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck. You're going to be sad, but this is what you want. And you are okay. Like, you're doing the things you got to do to get where you want to go. And I don't know. And I go, yeah, I love that. It's like a soft truth. I love truth, bunny. And that can be something even, I told my sister, who I love, but she's kind of a grouch and she's kind of not judgmental, but she has a high standard for bullshit. Like, I'm not going to take any bullshit. I'm not going to do things if I don't respect people. And she was telling me about how she started therapy, and she goes, I like him, but he's kind of dumb, or she's kind of, I don't know, kind of dumb. And I thought, well, okay. And in my mind, I'm like, well, why is she still with this person if she doesn't think they're smart? And I said it out loud. I said, well, if you are in therapy, but you don't respect the person or think they're smart, like, I highly doubt you're going to listen to them. Right. And she was like, oh, well, that's kind of harsh. And I thought, I don't mean that to be harsh at all. I mean that to be helpful. I mean, it's right. The truth, right? And she goes, yeah, I haven't heard like something like that in a long time, like somebody who truly knows me. And it was almost like this moment where I saw her feel seen, like almost like a relief. And also realized, like, oh, I need to kind of reflect on that. And I thought, that's truth, bunny, there, where you're telling somebody in total safety. It's like a harsh truth, but wrapped in fuzzy and lovey. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And your story sounds so similar to what so many people are going through. There's an unraveling and they're not quite sure what it was that they were unraveling from. I was raised in a very religious home, and my parents are still together after 60 plus years of marriage. I don't know how they haven't killed each other, honestly. Right. I mean, I really don't. But religion, you don't get divorced. Your story sounds very similar, but you mentioned truth. It really does set you free, and it really does help to you felt lifted. I'm discovering my truth, and I'm just like, I don't have time for everybody else. I love your truth bunny concept. You're telling people reality, but you're wrapping it up so it doesn't hurt, but it lets them sit back and actually contemplate and have some sort of reflection on what it is that you say. That was something that stuck out with your story, as well as shame. That is an underlying theme in so many of the conversations that I have with my guests here, because even if you weren't raised religious, certain generations, you have to be perfect. You can't talk about these things. You don't get divorced. You don't show your weaknesses. And so
It was
we
a
carry
parenting
around the
tool.
shame.
Shame your kid into, I remember having a thought about like saying something to one of my kids one time, and I was like stunned that I went there, but I was really at the end of my rope, and I thought, aren't they ashamed? And it's like I wanted them, like they should feel ashamed, about like missing work, or it was like I got the wrong time, I missed my schedule, and I was just floored. That is when I realized I am controlled by shame. That is how I get things done. I shame myself into them. Like, get up and, you know, do something with your life, or get up and, clean your house, or get up and do something productive today, because it's shameful to just be sitting there, relaxing, resting.
The fact that you were so self-aware that you decided you weren't going to raise your children like that speaks such volumes to our generation. I remember looking back, I have PTSD over some of the things that I did. I have a lot of shame around it, and I'm still trying to lift it. My kids are amazing. They walk their walk and they speak their truth in ways I never imagined doing for myself. I've learned so much from my kids because I worked so hard on allowing them to walk in their own truth, figure out who they were, and not control the path that I thought that they were supposed to take. And you were so self-aware and more emotionally regulated than what came before you. You talk in your book about changing the generational cycles. That is part of that.
Yeah. I think for a long time, I thought I was strange or weird for having thoughts like, this doesn't feel right. I had a lot of siblings. I had 5 siblings, and then 2 more later. I just always felt super self-aware, but I was an artist. I really embraced art around my parents' divorce. And I think it was a saving grace, because I think it just gave me almost time to process and quiet and just be alone with my thoughts. And I think just doing that like changed the trajectory, or just, I don't know. All the time, I'm like, why am I like this? What made me like this? I'm so curious, but I'm so grateful that I have whatever this is that makes me curious about being self-aware and what's going on, and why am I like this, or why are they like this, or, it's fascinating and amazing. And I love that connection, and feeling like, wow, this is not a uncommon story. Like, that makes me feel awesome that there are people out there that are like, I get that story, because I tell my story sometimes and people are just like, like, why would you tell people that? Admit any of that, or they just don't get it. And it's
Right.
like,
Yep.
I can't live a life that I don't feel fully aligned with. Sometimes I wish I wish I could, not have to fight tooth and nail to figure out what aligns with me. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
I want to mention, I recently went through a breakup, and I've talked about it in past shows. This person was, oh my gosh, we were so connected, but there was certain things that didn't align. And breaking that connection with him, I started noticing these patterns. In the course of the last couple of months of healing myself from this, and not just this relationship, but the past, I came to the realization that I chose this guy again. This is very profound for me because of what I experienced from my childhood with my mom. I kept waiting for my mom to show up to rescue me. But it's even deeper than that. I was waiting for my mom to show up and rescue herself. So I was going through these loops and these cycles of repeating all of this because I never saw my mom do it for herself. So now I get to do that. I get to do that for me. I get to do that for my mom. I get to do that for my grandmothers and my great grandmothers. But more importantly, I get to do that for my children. And my children get to see me show up and heal myself and show up for myself. And we're seeing that in these new generations that are coming along, where they're stepping up for themselves in ways that our generation never did.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like our generation, we're like, I'm 42, and a lot of the people I talk to are around that age, and they're like, figuring like it's like we're learning like it's okay to be happy and playful and make mistakes and kind of fail and you know and it's amazing. My kids look at me and they're like, Mom, I can't believe like you deserve so much. And I'm like, I'm going through kind of what you guys are going through now and like figuring out who you are in your 20s where that just wasn't, and I'm figuring that out now. I think it's awesome for them to see. I mean, my daughter is like, she told me the other day, she was like, you're the only reason I really truly now believe this. And because you took Truth Bunny, this thing that we talk about, and she's like, you wrote a book and you made it into a thing, like a real possible career. And I thought, what? I don't know what I'm doing. I have rewritten this thing 10 times. I don't have the dream career that I'm thinking of. And it made me see that this whole journey has been all about spreading healing. I healed and gave myself that room to dream and to write, break out of an identity of, oh, well, you're an artist. You can't be a writer. Then, but I think that's so amazing, like what our generation has done. And I think there should be studies on it, like what triggered us to, I just can't live unhappy. I don't want to be unhappy and just kind of go through the motions like my parents did. I don't know.
Look at you. I love that she's recognizing that for you. My children, my youngest will be 27, my oldest will be 27 this year. My youngest just turned 20. So I'm in that empty nest stage as well. It's like I spent my whole life dedicated to their upbringing. I told you I had some PTSD from some of the situations that I, remember as a parent, but we talk about that now. We're open about it. I explained to them who I was when I was going through some of those things. My oldest is on his path is just, oh my gosh. I mean, I am so excited for this kid. He is in college and he's following his dreams and he's, purchased his own house and like doing things at the age of 27 that I was still very unsure of who I was at 27.
Yeah.
Young mom, just like you, all of the divorce and whatnot. And to see my children like going through life, shaping their life the way they want to, not the way that they think somebody wants them to. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it shows us that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's a really cool stage of parenting. My youngest is 18. So we have a blended family. So we have two 21-year-olds. I have a 21 and an 18. And then my husband, he has a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. From a young age, in formative years, I would say, those teen years where they kind of grew up and they're just all super close. It's just so awesome to have these philosophical life conversations with your young adults and see one like, oh my God, they're so emotionally mature and they're so self-aware. They know like themselves. And it's magical. It really is.
It really is, because we're having conversations with them that our parents didn't have with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm 48 and I think I might be going through perimenopause. I mean, did we even know that was a thing until TikTok?
No. My mom the other day, I said, I think I'm going through perimenopause. She goes, no, you're too young. I was still dancing when I was 42. And I'm like, well, I think I'm going through it. Like,
She probably was. She just didn't recognize it. And my mom can't remember when she went through menopause. And, I went to her. You didn't talk about things like sex and safe sex and alcohol and drugs and what was a period. Like we didn't talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was like
enjoying
they
sex.
handed you a box of tampons through closed doors. They couldn't with their eyes like this, like that was the silent generation. Mm-hmm. And when the boomers were raised by them and they had their good parts of their generation that was breaking, whatever it was from the generation before them, but it was still a lot of taboo stuff. And you were raised in Texas, I assume, because you said you're in Dallas.
Yeah.
I was raised in South Carolina.
Oh.
So you throw that conservative religious aspect into our upbringing and forget about it. You didn't talk about that stuff. You swept it under the rug. And so it created a lot of problems. And emotional regulation, what was that? I didn't have emotional regulation. Alcohol was my emotional regulation. So we created all these problems, helping them have more emotional regulation and just being who they are, no matter what that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are coming to the end of the show. This
Okay.
is the time where I will ask you. I love hearing your journey. Healing is not lineal. It is my favorite metaphor is a ball of tangled up string. You think you untangled it a little bit and you find another tangle underneath. Something can come up that you wouldn't even think connected to whatever, trauma from your past or, whatever it is that you're trying to heal. This is the part of the show where I ask my guests to share a piece of advice for listeners who are going through it right now, some sort of piece of advice they can take with them to help them either dig deeper into their healing journey, start their healing journey, or just have something that they can put in their back pocket when they need it.
I would say listen to your truth. And sometimes that's like, it feels like just a little scratch at the door, just a little scratch. And you're just like, oh my God, like, shut up. I'm just ignoring that. And I'm telling you, the longer you wait to just address it, just look at it, because it's not a monster yet. Like, it's not a monster. So look at it while it's still soft and small, and just address it and kind of go from there and figure out what you can live with to make this truth closer to being aligned with what you want. If you can take shame, blame, and guilt, those are my three like gremlins. If you can take those out, I think truth is allowed to let the fluff out. Like, if you can, and question it. Like, if you have a truth that you're scared of, ask, is there blame attached? Is there guilt attached? Or is there shame attached? And if you can remove those, then look at it. Don't look at it with those three barnacles hanging on.
We have intuition. We just need to learn how to tap into that. And that intuition leads you to that truth. And I love what you said about asking, is there blame, shame, or guilt attached to that? I think that's great in helping people really get down deeper into what it is that they might be facing and that truth that they might be hiding. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I just want to let listeners know that they can find you at truthbunny_guide, and that your book, Truth Bunny, it's part memoir, part self-help guide to loving yourself one honest conversation at a time. And I do want to thank you for bringing your softness and your fire to the rabbit hole today. Listeners, I want to thank you all so much for joining us and for daring to face your own truths within this community here. Until next time, keep reckoning, keep rising, and keep remembering who you are. I'm Lisa Van Slyke, and this has been Rabbit Hole Reflections.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another journey down the rabbit hole. We all face our own descent. It's not the falling that defines us. It's how we rise and what we carry back. If this episode spoke to you, share it. And if you haven't already, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. You can connect with the Rabbit Hole Reflections community on Instagram and Facebook at Rabbit Hole Reflections, and catch full episodes on YouTube at Rabbit Hole Reflections Podcast. If you're ready to share your own voice with the world, check out my podcast workshop linked below. I'll walk you through launching your own show, even if you're not techie. And stay tuned, my book Quieted Flames and Silent Sparks is coming soon. It's the story behind the stories, and I can't wait to share it with you. Until next time, keep rising, keep reckoning, keep remembering who you are. I'm Lisa Van Slyke, and this has been Rabbit Hole Reflections.